Hi guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you get anything from my work, a connect, a dot, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom, and the holidays are coming. I customize all these for you guys, and I have paintings in the background. I can make a lot of different things. I'm in arts. I graduated art school. So check me out, AllyKatzkreations211.com. All the links are down below this video. Thank you for your support and your love. Hi, everybody. I just got off a show with Tara Creek and Gina, my Dina, on Sacred Valley on Rumble, and I'm going to post a link. Very informative. Go check that out. Again, I'm not for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I have a higher purpose to seed people who are meant to hear the seeding in their heart to transform. Divine Neutrality, which spirit guides during the show was like, Beyond Good and Evil, Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm going to say right now, I know a lot of people have a problem with him. Great. His work profoundly changed my perception of reality in college. I got exposed. Actually, I read this in college. One of my classes made me read this book. And I'm not going to read everything, just like, The Hermit's Journey. I go through sections of Thus Spoke Zarathustra. But this is a very interesting time that we're in. Something where we need to transcend the good and the evil, because it is all the source's paradigm. The source created everything, and including this pen that was a creative manifestation of one of us that created the pen from source, just like Tesla had free energy, and all of a sudden all this beautiful epiphany started coming to him. Yes, trial and error. That's any inventor and anybody using creative spirit. You're not going to get it right the first time, but eventually you're going to get it. It's all source, good and evil. And when we tend to look at the world in both duality, good and evil, understand the both sides and what are they challenging you with to learn, what are you imparting on them. It's a dance back and forth. And if you understand that dance of how reality works, how things are quantum entangled, how things are connected to each other, that we're just fractals of other entities, including ourselves. To you, we're all one. How can you be all one and embody that concept? How can you be one with everything? Because your energy is everywhere. You're much more than this body. The human is limited in perception and metaphysics. You perceive you're the first person player in the game. It's not easy to think bigly. It's not easy to think that way. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of time to dedicate to understanding those things. But it is necessary. In order for the old paradigm to die, the old self has to die. And you have to have an open mind to bring in new concepts and new things. And yes, we can take some understandings and learnings of people who were way before their time in thinking. Hence, Friedrich Nietzsche. So I'm going to start. I'm going to probably jump around, but I think this is worthy of reading and worthy of us understanding what the philosophers were talking about, especially existentialists. If you want to put him in that category, great. Everybody puts him in a different category. The will to truth. The will to truth which will still tempt us to many a venture. That famous truthfulness, of which all philosophers so far have spoken with respect, what questions has this will to truth not laid before us? What strange, wicked, questionable questions? That is a long story even now, and yet it seems as if it had scarcely begun. It is any wonder why that we should finally become suspicious, lose patience, and turn away impatiently. That we should finally learn from this Sphinx to ask questions too. Who is really that puts questions to us here? What in us really wants truth? Those are very, very deep questions. Huge. Remember, one of my spiritual soul advices, I did say your thoughts are not yours. Collectively, when you project it out into speech, into sound, in the vibratory state that it's in, yes, it's yours. Your interpretation of what your mind receives from the ether via quantum entanglement to your higher self, to the ether that is energy and consciousness. Indeed, we came to a long halt at the question about cause of this will, until we finally came to a complete stop before a still more basic question. We asked about the value of this will. Suppose we want truth. Why not rather untruth and uncertainty, even ignorance? The problem of the value of truth came before us, or was it we who came before the problem? Who of us is Oedipus here? Who the Sphinx? It is a rendezvous, it seems, of questions and question marks. And though it scarcely seems credible, it finally almost seems to us as if the problem had never, ever been put so far, as if we were the first to see it, fix it with our eyes, and risk it. For it does involve a risk, and perhaps there is none that is greater. And this is something I highlighted. How could anything originate out of its opposite? Okay, and at this point in time that I made the little mark, I have this whole thing that I put into books, and I mark my pages with things that I find like I need to research. And that stood out to me so profound. How can anything originate out of its opposite? Because we live in duality. We live with both poles, positive and negative polarity. We live in duality, good and evil, hot, cold. This is what it is. Example, truth out of error, or the will to truth out of the will to deception, or selfless deeds out of selfishness, or the pure and sun-like gaze of the sage out of lust. Such origins are impossible. How whoever dreams of them is a fool, indeed worse. The things of the highest value must have another peculiar, can never get that word projected out right, origin. They cannot be derived from the transitory, seductive, deceptive, paltry world, from this turmoil of delusion and lust, rather from the lap of being, the intransitory, the hidden God, the thing in itself. There must be their basis and nowhere else. The term the thing in itself is probably better described by Schopenhauer in The Will, and I'll just show you the book. The World as Will and Representation volume 1, because volume 2 is loaded even more. And I haven't fully comprehended that book thus far. It's sitting right there. That's the second volume. So the thing in itself is a kind of a not easy concept because it gets very in depth with a lot of meaty bone stuff. But this way of judging constitutes the typical prejudgment and prejudice which give away the metaphysicians of all ages. This kind of valuation looms in the dark playground of their logical procedures. It is on account of this faith that they trouble themselves about knowledge, about something that is finally baptized solemnly as the truth. The fundamental faith of the metaphysicians is the faith in opposite values. It has not even occurred to most cautious among them that one might have a doubt right here at the threshold where it is surely most necessary, even if they vow to themselves, all is to be doubted. For one may doubt, first, whether they are any opposites at all, and secondly, whether these popular valuations and opposite values on which the metaphysicians put their seal are not perhaps merely foreground estimates, only provisional perspectives, perhaps even from some nook, perhaps from below, frog perspectives, as it were, to borrow an expression painters use. For all the value that the true, the truthful, the selfless may deserve, it would still be possible that a higher and more fundamental value for life might have to be ascribed to deception, selfishness, and lust. It might even be possible that what constitutes the value of these good and revered things is precisely that they are insidiously related, tied to and involved with these wicked, seemingly opposite things, maybe even one with them in essence. Maybe. So we were just talking about things like world events, and people like to think that I have this ability to predict things. And I kind of do sometimes, but not something so on humanity's scale. But if we just take a look at what was just written, perhaps the notion of what we want that would be good for humanity is also tied to things that are of lust and greed and things that wouldn't play out so well in our paradigm. Maybe that's why a lot of things haven't transpired to our physical eyes just yet, because not enough of us are clearly in the right intentional space for that will of truth to be presented. Also, if enough of us reach that vibratory oscillating state within our being to see truth in a different shifted point, right? Truth expands as we expand. The understanding of that truth on this level is different up here because you're seeing a different viewpoint. You're perceiving it differently. This next part is awesome. But who has the will to concern himself with such dangerous maybes? For that, one really has to wait for the advent of a new species of philosophers, such as have somehow another converse taste and propensity from those we have known so far, philosophers of the dangerous, maybe in every sense. And in all seriousness, I see new philosophers coming up. After having looked long enough between the philosopher's lines and fingers, I say to myself, by far the greater part of conscious thinking must still be included among instinctive activities, and that goes even for philosophical thinking. We have to relearn here, as one has had to relearn about heredity and what is innate. As the act of birth deserves no consideration in the whole process and procedure of heredity, so being conscious is not in any deceptive sense the opposite of what is intrinsic and instinctive. Most of the conscious thinking of philosopher is secretly guided and forced into certain channels by his instincts. And I also made a big underlining in this next statement. Behind all logic, it seems sovereignty of movement. To there stand valuations, or more clearly, physiological demands for the preservation of a certain type of life. For example, that the definite should be worth more than the indefinite, and mere appearance worth less than truth. Such estimates might be, in spite of their regulative importance for us, nevertheless, mere foreground estimates, a certain kind of menagerie, which may be necessary for the preservation of such beings as we are, supposing that is that not just man is the measure of things. Another one I underlined. The falseness of a judgment is for us not necessarily an objection to a judgment. In this respect, our new language may sound strangest. The question is, to what extent is it life promoting, life preserving, species preserving, perhaps even species cultivating? And we are fundamentally inclined to claim that the falsest judgments, which includes the synthetic judgments of priori, are the most indispensable for us, that without accepting the fictions of logic, without measuring reality against the purely invented world of the unconditional and self-identical, without a constant falsification of the world by means of numbers, man could not live. That renouncing false judgments would mean renouncing life and a denial of life. To recognize untruth as a condition of life, that certainly means resisting accustomed value feelings in a dangerous way. And a philosophy that risks this way, by the token alone, place itself beyond good and evil. So this is the man that said, God is dead. But it's not in the context that you think it is. I'm going to skip around. According to nature, you want to live. Oh, you noble Stoics, what deceptive words these are. Imagine a being like nature, wasteful beyond measure, indifferent beyond measure, without purpose and consideration, without mere mercy and justice, fertile and desolate and uncertain at the same time. Imagine indifference itself as a power. How could you live according to this indifference? Living is that not precisely wanting to be other than this nature? Is not living estimating, preferring, being unjust, being limited, wanting to be different? And supposing your imperative life according to nature meant at bottom as much as living according to life, how could you not do that? Why make a principle of what you yourselves are and must be? Bingo. In the truth, the matter is altogether different. While you pretend rapturously to read the canon of your law in nature, you want something opposite, you strange actors and self-deceivers. Your pride wants to impose your morality, your ideal on nature, even on nature, and incorporate them in her. You demand that she should be nature according to the Stoa, and you would like all existence to exist only after your own image as an immense eternal glorification and generalization of Stoicism. For all you love of truth, you have forced yourself so long to persistently, so rapidly, hypnotically to see nature the wrong way, namely, stoically, that you are no longer able to see her differently. And some abysmal arrogance finally still inspires you with the insane hope that because you know how to tyrannicize yourselves, Stoicism is self-tyranny, nature, too, lets herself be tyrannized. It is not the Stoic, a piece of nature. But this is an ancient, eternal story. What formerly happened with the Stoics still happens today, too. As soon as any philosophy begins to believe in itself, it always creates the world in its own image. It cannot do otherwise. Philosophy is this tyrannical drive itself, the most spiritual will to power, to the creation of the world, to the causa prima. The eagerness and subtlety, I might even say shrewdness, with which the problem of the real and the apparent world is today attacked over Europe, makes one thing in wonder. And anyone who hears nothing in the background except a will to truth certainly does not have the best of ears. In rare and isolated instances, it may really be the cause in case that such a will to truth, some extravagant and adventurous courage, a metaphysician's ambition to hold a hopeless position, may participate and ultimately prefer even a handful of certainty to a whole carload of beautiful possibilities. There may actually be puritanical fantasies and fanatics of conscience who prefer even a certain nothing to an uncertain something to lie down on and die. But this is nihilism, and the sign of a despairing, mortally weary soul, however courageous the gestures of such a virtue may look. It seems, however, to be otherwise with stronger and livelier thinkers who are still eager for life. When they cite against appearance and speak of perspective, with a new arrogance, when they rank the credibility of their own bodies about as low as the credibility of the visual evidence that the earth stands still, and thus apparently in good humor, let their securest possession go. For in what does one at present believe more firmly than one's body? Who knows if they are not trying to bottom to win back something that was formerly an even securer possession, something of the ancient domain of the faith of former times, perhaps the immortal soul, perhaps the old God, in short, ideas by which one could live better. That is to say, more vigorously and more cheerfully than by modern ideas. There is mistrust of these modern ideas in this attitude, a disbelief in all that has been constructed yesterday and today. There is perhaps some slight admixture of satiety and scorn, unable to endure any longer the bric-a-brac of concepts of most diverse origin, which is the form in which so-called positivism occurs and offers itself on the market today, a disgust of the most fastidiousness taste at the village fair, mottliness and patchiness of all these reality philosophers, in whom there is nothing new or genuine except their mottliness. In this, it seems to me, we should agree that these skeptical anti-realists and knowledge microscopists of today, their instinct, which repels them from modern reality, is unrefuted. What do their retrograde bypaths concern us? The main thing about them is not that they wish to go back, but they wish to get away. A little more strength, flight, courage, and artistic power, and they want to rise, not return. Does any of this start resonating? I hate to use that word. Seeping into your conscious of what's playing out now. He goes into a lot of Kantian stuff. I'm going to skip it. But here's something I underlined. A time came when people scratched their heads, and they still scratch them today. For sure we do. Because if we look at the components of what's going on in this world, even the light that we consider light is deceiving us. I'm sorry, but we had documentation and documents from our forefathers that stated that the military was supposed to be here for our best and highest regard to keep us safe. Well, how are we safe when there's so much treason and so much that needs to wipe out? And in the documents, they were supposed to already act. And we're all still on that timeline of waiting. So who's really being deceived? I don't care if there's a cog in place. Don't care. That doesn't change a document and what they were supposed to do with that document. I don't care that there's psychological warfare happening, that we are in war. That doesn't change what a document says that our forefathers wrote about the roles of the military. Oh, well, there's good military, Allison, and bad military, and they're at war with each other. That's wonderful, but there's still documentation that says they should have been already acting out and publicly. This should have been stopped. Well, we don't want civil war. Okay, in what reality and timeline did your AI look at that probability? So we're being deceived. They put all this stuff out as distraction. The deck clock is a distraction. As good as it sounds and is really eye-openingly cool, and to watch Jason decode this stuff, like I'm not opposed to it. That gets his wheel spinning, and we need that. But at the same time, what are we in the delusion? And this is an illusion, according to Ra, and I agree with Ra. In what fantasy land are we living in? And why are we feeding an agenda where we're not getting the full truth spoken out plainly as day? Where everybody can comprehend it, not just some who have the gift of decoding things. Right? When things become too complicated, when things get diluted and things, harder concepts are put into place, there might be a reason for this. I'm sorry, but that just, all this philosophical, metaphysical stuff is not easy. It's dense. It's hard to understand. But at face value, they're just giving you perception. But what's going on in our paradigm right now? We're searching for things outside of ourselves, hoping that these things manifest. We want to see certain people come to justice. Let God take care of that. Divine timing. And if it already has happened, which I believe it already has, because I am not reading a soul imprint on these people, then why hasn't it been truthfully out there for all to see? Oh, because we're playing a movie. Okay, but why do we have to play a movie? That's, again, another deception. Well, because people have to wake up. Well, let's just be real. Not everybody's waking up. Everybody's paradigm is different. What your contract is not my contract. What my mission here on earth is not your mission here. I mean, yes, when we come together, like the like-minded soul tribe that we are, come together, yeah, Captainess Planet will fucking decode a ring. We all put our rings together and like, right? But that requires a lot of work on your own. And everybody's distracted with everything outside of themselves. But, I don't want to disrespect anybody when I say, if you're not putting food on my table, if you're not paying my bills, and yes, we have to play in the matrix. This is playtime. We need certain things to survive. And until those things change in a totality type way, where the money, I still can't go to the grocery market and hand them a gold bullion to say, here's the equivalent of $500 in silver or gold here, and I'm going to take my groceries. It's still, we're not there yet. And it ain't looking like it's coming anytime soon. So we're being led as sheep ourselves to a whole different fray. We're being taken off task. That's just my understanding of what I am seeing and what I'm listening to. And it's not to disrespect anybody, and it's not to throw anybody off for a loop. Whatever makes you happy, you do you. But I'm not feeding my energy into things that are not going to provide me every day with being fed, getting my life together. What I didn't say on this show today was that everybody told me the RV and Sarah Jacera was going to go off any day now, any day now, any day now. If I listened to those people 2 years ago, I would have been homeless on the street and no one would have gave a shit. Just being honest. I wouldn't even have the internet to get in touch with people. If I listened to everybody and didn't go inside to do the work, to say, hey, well, you know what? I can't wait. My life is now, in this present moment. I can't wait for something fanciful to come. If it comes, wonderful. If it doesn't come, wonderful. I still have to live my life. I still have to work. I still have to create. I still have to do me. And until my circumstances change or an opportunity presents itself, if I didn't create it, if I didn't create it and someone came in and said, hey, Allison, I have this job for you, like here, right? I didn't get that. I'm still unemployed technically. I'm employing myself. But in matrix terms, I'm still unemployed. I got to do what I need to do to put food on my table and make sure that my bills are paid, and make sure that I am incapable of doing and continuing what I do every day. None of these people gave me a handout and said, here, this should help. None of these Q people walked into my life and said, well, here's a stimulus check. This should help you a little bit, especially when I was emaciated and under 100 pounds. That hit home really hard. And if I didn't take the conscious choice to stop listening to everybody and go within and do that work, and now I'm not falling for it anymore. I'm not an unbeliever, but I'm not a believer. It's, again, when I see it, I will believe it. But the truth is being eschewed. Right now, I think we're at the lowest point of what truth in the vibratory state is. Because if more people were seeing, and if it was put out directly, more sleepy people, as we would call them, would wake up if they were meant to. But he's bringing out really good points in understanding truth and the will. What are we willing? As for the materialistic atomism, it is one of the best refuted theories there are. And in Europe, perhaps no one is the learned world is now so unscholarly as to attach serious significance to it, except for convention, household use, as an abbreviation of the means of expression, thanks chiefly to the Dalmatian Boskovic. He and the Pole Copernicus have been the greatest and most successful opponents of visual evidence so far. For while Copernicus has persuaded us to believe, contrary to all the senses, that the earth does not stand fast, Boskovic has taught us to abjure the belief in the last part of the earth that stood fast, the belief in the substance in matter, in the earth residuum and particle atom, is the greatest triumph over the senses that have gained on earth thus far. One must also, first of all, give the finishing stroke to all that other and more calamitous atomism, which Christianity has taught best and longest, the soul atomism. Let it be permitted to designate by this expression the belief which regards the soul as something indestructible, eternal, invisible, as a monad, as an atomon. This belief ought to be expelled from science. Between ourselves, it is not at all necessary to get rid of the soul at the same time, and thus to renounce one of the most ancient and venerable hypotheses, as happens frequently to clumsy naturalists who can hardly touch on the soul without immediately losing it. But the way is open for new versions and refinements of the soul hypothesis in such conceptions as mortal soul and soul as subjective multiplicity, and soul as social structure of the drives and effects. Want henceforth to have citizens right in science. When the new psychologist puts an end to the superstitions which have so far flourished with almost tropical luxuriance around the idea of the soul, he practically exiles himself into a new desert and a new suspicion. It is possible that the older psychologists have a merrier and more comfortable time of it. Eventually, however, he finds that precisely thereby he also condemns himself to invention and, who knows, perhaps to discovery. Physiologists should think before putting down the intrinsic of self-preservation as a cardinal instinct of an organic body. A being thing, a living thing, seeks above all to discharge its strength, life itself, in will to power. Self-preservation is only one of the indirect and most frequent results. In short, here as everywhere else, let us beware of the superfluous teleological principles, one of which is the instinct of self-preservation. We owe it to Spinoza's inconsistency, thus method, which must be essentially economy of principles, demands it. Another thing I pointed out, where man cannot find anything to see or to grasp, he has no further business. What? And others even say that the eternal world is the work of our organs, but then our body as a part of this eternal world would be the work of our organs. But then our organs themselves would be the work of our organs. It seems to me that this is a complete reductio ad absurdum, assuming that the concept of a causa sui is something fundamentally absurd. Consequently, the external world is not the work of our organs. Question. There are still harmless self-observers who believe that there are immediate certainties. For example, I think, or as the superstition of Schopenhauer put it, I will. As though knowledge here got hold of its object purely and nakedly as the thing in itself, without any falsification on the part of either the subject or the object. But that immediate certainty, as well as absolute knowledge and the thing in itself, involved contractico in objecto. I shall repeat 100 times, we really ought to be free of ourselves from the seduction of words. That is one of his biggest, I love that. Let the people suppose that knowledge means knowing things entirely. The philosopher must say to himself, when I analyze the process that is expressed in this sentence, I think I find a whole series of daring assertions that would be difficult, perhaps impossible, to prove, for example, that it is I who think, that there must necessarily be something that thinks, that thinking is an activity, an operation on the part of a being who is thought of as a cause, that there is an ego, and finally, that it is already determined what it is to be designated by thinking, that I know what thinking is. Wrap your head around that. For if I had not already decided within myself what it is, by what standard could I determine whether that which is just happening is not perhaps willing or feeling? In short, the assertion I think assumes that I compare my state at the present moment with other states of myself, which I know. In order to determine what it is on account of this retrospective connection with further knowledge, it has, at any rate, no immediate certainty for me. In place of the immediate certainty in which the people may believe in the case at hand, the philosopher thus finds a series of metaphysical questions presented to him, truly searching questions of the intellect, to wit, from where do I get the concept of thinking? Why do I believe in cause and effect? What gives me the right to speak of an ego, and even of an ego as cause, and finally of an ego as the cause of thought? Whoever ventures to answer these metaphysical questions at once by an appeal to sort of intrusive, intuitive perception, like the person who says, I think and know that this at least is true, actual and certain, will encounter a smile and 2 question marks from a philosopher nowadays. Sir, the philosopher will perhaps give him to understand it is improbable that you are not mistaken, but why insist on the truth? I'm going to leave this here. This is very heavy and not easy to absorb and to understand. But we're being thrown the concept of neutrality. When you can take yourself out of your world and take the bird's eye view to see really what's going on in totality, so you're not allowing either end to bother you, you're just going to do you, and you're going to walk God's path, source's path, the monad, the expressive creative thinking of source. It's all bound by the quanta. What are you feeding your energy? What are you doing to take care of yourself? When you take care of yourself and you release a lot, and you're purging right now, the energies are crazy. What are you doing to transmute the things that you're purging? We're all doing it. I'm not anybody special. I'm just a human having a human experience, but I'm a spiritual being having a spiritual experience. I am much more than the infinitude that is even comprehensible. We all are. I'm no different than any one of you. I'm just able to see past certain veils that I placed for myself. We all put veils in for ourselves. This is the starting of how I think of truth. Is it really truth? Is it a perception? Is it an algorithm on an AI that tells you this, well, if we hit this percentage, well, things are going to start happening in humanity? Or when you do the work inside and you are around like-minded people doing the same work, are you expanding on that to more and more people start grabbing onto those concepts? More and more people start doing the work, more and more people start healing, their vibratory state uplifts, and we all bring into manifestation the world that we want. And a lot of us have a lot of commonalities on how that's going to look. So it'd be a lot easier for all of us to just do the work. And I know many people are. But for those who are still like on the fence with everything, this is something, this book is really good. It was recommended. I read it in college. It was a must read in college. And I know that a lot of his work is controversial. A lot of people look at him and dismiss him right off the bat, but he has a very huge talent in getting out really good philosophy. So does a couple of others. Spinoza is another one. I have a bunch of philosophical goodies up there on my shelf. Philosophy helped me think when I was in the dark abyss. Again, I've seen, in order for me to understand myself, I was in the deepest, darkest of depressions, suicidal ideations. I've seen the darkness. I've seen the devil. I've seen a lot of things. And it wasn't until I understood my light and what I am, how to change that perception and stop playing mind games with myself in the negative sense, negative self-talk. Well, when you get fed, you're stupid. You don't know what you're doing. You're never going to amount to anything. This is the course of your life, and you're making very dangerous choices. You're not doing anything to help yourself. And that's all, a lot of negative self-speak. But those words were also projected at me. And that's what I thought that I was. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy of anything. With all my learning disabilities, with all my, getting things out word-wise not right, and dyslexia and the whole 9 yards. I was told I'm never enough. I'm never going to make anything out of myself. And this kept being spoken to me throughout my life. Until I decided to get out of that dark abyss and raise my light and raise my vibration and honor my light. Honor what I am. We're in a time right now where people aren't going to look at me anymore like a crazy nut for what I'm talking about. Because most other people that are watching me have had these experiences themselves. They know what that abyss looks like. It's not a good place. But I appreciate that spot that I was in. Not in the moment, but I appreciate it because I learned a hell of a lot. And I got exposed to really good work that really changed my mindset on my thinking. Warped as a lot of this philosophy might be, I objectively looked at all sides of the philosophy game. The metaphysics is not easy to understand, but once you get little components, it's all perception. You have to go in and do the work on yourself. And the real test is to see if you're being a hypocrite to yourself. Like I keep mentioning, you can't say love and light if you're going to hate the other side of God. God created everything. And God said, let there be light. BMV Nation, guys. Really good song. But it's true. If we all just individuated out of source, we are source. We're fractals of it, and we're fractals of each other, and we're fractals of higher density beings. We made this reality. Now it's for ourselves to remember that and own it, embody it, come into a totality with it. It's not easy, guys. This is not easy. And it's going to take time. Why nothing is being rushed, why this is slow walked, why we're not seeing things coming out into the ether. We're seeing little things here and there, but we're always being told, oh, it's happening behind the scenes, and eventually it'll come to surface. Everything's happening behind the scenes. The aliens are working behind the scenes, and this is happening behind the scenes. Okay, great. But it's all hearsay until otherwise. Any picture, anything in this illusory world is doctored. It can be faked. All the agendas that are being steered on all the channels and all the people are talking about certain things. Are you really going in your heart space to think, is this something that my heart is feeling? What do I get out of this? Do I align with it? Because you're not going to align with everything and everybody. We're unique expressions of source. Each and every one of us brings something different to the table. Find the worthiness within yourself. Get rid of the fear. We all need to get together and really write down the commonalities that we would like to see brought into the world. Maybe if we focused our energy on those kind of things, instead of on tangible things that are supposed to happen but haven't yet happened, and they might not happen, but they might happen, and they might not happen in the way you're thinking it's going to happen. Well, I'm not going to stick my energy into something that is wasting my time and my energy. I don't care what the debt clock fund says. That's Jason's job to tell me what goes on, right? And I can research it if I'm interested. If not, I just wait for Jason. That doesn't change my thinking either way. Again, I'm not here to bash on Jason. Jason is an amazing friend to me. Jason's not there yet. And a lot of people aren't there yet. And again, it's your divine timing when these things start occurring in your life. If you want to manifest better for yourself, if you want certain things to happen, you have to put the energy in to do the work to get it. I dropped my expectations of wanting a boyfriend, getting somebody in my life. I dropped my expectations. I stopped talking about it. I stopped projecting it out here. And when I literally stopped myself and said, well, if it happens, great. And if it doesn't happen, great. I still have to wake up in the morning. I still have to take care of myself. I still have needs to attend to. If that extra comes into my life, bonus, gold star for me. But if it doesn't, bonus, gold star for me, because I still have to do me. And then I get a ring at my door. Wasn't looking for it, wasn't asking for it, didn't even think about it, and I got a ring at my doorbell. I was trying to explain this in one of my oracle readings. We got to drop what things look like. And maybe something will attract to you in your auric field that will manifest in the physical. We all want everybody to be abundant. We all don't want we don't want to watch people suffering. But if they're not picking themselves up to get out of that suffering, or if no one's handing them just to get them back on their feet, I mean, this is the things that we could be doing right now. Instead of thinking about, oh, what's the debt clock saying? Well, did you do something today to uplift somebody? Going back to my Amish mindset, you don't have to financially be set to give somebody help, right? Like, I wasn't asking anybody to pay my bills last year and the year before that. I wanted a job. I like to work. I like to be busy. I'm very productive with my day. If I'm not reading, I'm creating. If I'm not creating, I'm painting. If I'm not doing something for my house outside, I am doing other things to keep my life in motion. The only time I'm really still is when I'm under my pyramid meditating. So there's a lot of reflection that we need to do. A lot of things we need to really start looking at in terms of good and evil and what that really entails. You know, people are like, well, the reptiles are bad and because they're Dracos and they're of source. They chose not to acknowledge source. Just like all these stars sign their souls away or their likeness away to other higher entities. They're still created and is still a part of source's paradigm, whether they acknowledge it or not. Like I said, hi Satanists, like you still have source. Again, you don't need to believe me. When you go and do the work, and you go within, figure it out for your own self. And if you're not meant to see it, because that's the experience that God wants to have through you, kudos. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to explain why things aren't necessarily coming to fruition the way we expect it to, of what we're told to interpret. Our ways of interpreting things need to be changed. If we want different, we have to make changes to have different. And we're doing that collectively right now. We're standing up finally in our divinity to hold the freaking space for other people. Again, we all have missions and jobs. All of us do. So some of us are here to hold the space. Some of us are here to hold the light. Some of us are here to seed. Some of us are here to actually physically go out and make the changes. We all play a big role, and there is no one body above us or below us. We need to really understand that. When people put others on a podium and people feel jealous and enviousness, well, then why are you getting triggered and why are you feeling those things? You have, and everybody here serves a role. You might not see it right now. It might not present itself to you right now in the tangible world. That's okay. Just be. Raise your frequency. Commune with nature. Go and meditate. If you can't meditate, go and do something productive. If you see someone struggling, especially in our chats, instead of ignoring them, hey, I might know somebody in your state that might have a job for you. Or let me ask if I can figure this out for you. Let me see. There has to be something we can do for you, right? It's the chain of succession. I might not be the one that have the resources, but someone I know might have them. And if unless we don't ask, that chain of help ends. We need to see both sides. We also need to understand we're still in the matrix. And we have to play by the matrix game. So are you going to outwit the system or are you going to be suckered by it? You have to play. You have to go and abide by rules. You might not like them. But for the here and now, it is what it is. Live your everyday conscious life. Do the work. Go within. Find yourself. Find the divine within you. And then you'll start understanding what he's trying to portray in this book. And next time I'll pick up. I deliberately did this on section 17. So guys, go check out the episode I was a guest on Sacred Valley, the Tara Creek, and my girlfriend, Dina Jump. Hi, Dina. And thank you to my friend Julie for always liking my stuff. Julie's an amazing friend as well. I have a really incredible crew of people that are so amazing. I wish I had these people in my life when I really needed the actual help. And I don't get me wrong, I can always use help. I'm not giving myself enough credit that doing small business for Christmas and for the holidays, I'm reclaiming all those holidays back, by the way. We got to put the good intentions into everything. There's no reason why we have to look at the negative polarized versions of holidays. I'm changing. I'm taking my holidays back. I like Christmas. I was never raised Catholic. I was born Southern Baptist, but I was raised in a Jewish home. But I still love Christmas. Who doesn't want to look at decorations? Who doesn't want to go and put cool stuff on a tree? Personalized. Who doesn't want to exchange really good energy with other people? Again, it doesn't need to be materialistic. But at the same time, it's showing your charity. It's doing this. Is like, we got to come back to those things. But it's satanic, Allison. And well, yeah, that's the other polarized portion of source playing itself out. Why are you feeding it? I'm taking it back. I'm claiming it. Come claim it with me. Let's do better than thinking all the time of the negative stuff, because now we're freaking giving them energy to manifest. Again, we all signed up for this experience, but we have the power to change the reactions that we have. So let's stop feeding that side. We're not belonging there. So I want to thank everybody. Go check out the episode that I was on today. Very insightful, and love those girls. And it's conversations that need to happen. Conversations that not too many people are having. And they're hard conversations because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And it's okay if you feel differently from me. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to seed you. If you're in the heart space to receive it, great. If not, that's okay too. Thank you for coming. So next time I'll pick up on Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. I need a nap. It's early by me and I'm tired. So I'm going to rest, and hopefully I'll get a video out, another one soon. Thanksgiving, I might have another show with the girls on Sacred Valley, and eventually it's Thanksgiving week here in America. So I'm not sure what the schedule is looking like. I know that on Thanksgiving, I'm going to be eating with people. So I will not do a video unless it's during the day, depending what time that is. So hopefully I'll get more out, guys. I do apologize for things. Life happens, and I'm hoping I can get some cute raccoon videos going. Those seem to do really well on my channel. So guys, sending you light, love, compassion, grace, protection, and shielding. Please be safe, be seen, and please be mindful of doing the work on yourselves. I love to see it, and I see a lot of really good changes in some people, and it's heartfelt and very warming. And I hope to see you on the next one. Bye, guys.